Oh yeah, I obviously get conventional weapons box set on occasion. The current one up for sale is $2,000.
I was gonna say, should I even bother adding that to my want list? I don't think I should.
No, you should not. Un- the the only reason I can think that I'm like, maybe if like the box is really damaged, somebody might like list it for a reasonable amount of money, but like I'm talking like $500, and I wouldn't actually call that reasonable.
Right? Yeah, I'll pay $100 for it if I see it somewhere. No way I'm paying 2,000 or even 500 for it.
If Warner Records knows what's good for them, they will simply
Press a
repress
single
it as an
LP.
LP. Exactly. Jesus. I mean, I would buy. This is one I would buy. I would buy a 7-inch box set. Unlike my copy of December Underground that I believe I'm going to finally sell because they've repressed that finally. Welcome to Noise Floor, a podcast about music and our favorite artists' discographies. I'm Matt Kistler.
And I'm Troy Sennett.
And today we're continuing our series on Mitski with her 6th album. Are we on 6 now? We're on 6 now.
Sounds right.
Yeah. This album's called Laurel Hell. It was released on February 4th, 2022 on Dead Oceans, as many of her previous albums have at this point. Again, produced by Patrick Hyland, features a host of people on various instruments, but largely is still mostly Mitski and Patrick on the kind of core instruments. Mitski plays a lot of the keyboards on this record. Patrick plays a lot of synthesizer, percussion, etc., etc. This record follows. We left off last week. Emily mentioned that back in 2019, Mitski played a series of concerts at Central Park's Summer Stage. Announced that the last one of those would be her last show indefinitely. And, you know, obviously a few years later we have another record, but she just kind of realized that, like, doing the entire grind was eating away at her. She literally didn't live any place for a while because she was just on the road or in the studio so much. But ultimately, after calling this hiatus, ends up moving to Nashville to not be in LA or NYC, but still be near studios for when she needed to work on music. And then COVID hit. And that's kind of where we find ourselves here. Troy, I know you said this is one of the records you have not listened to all the way through before, right?
Yeah, I remember hearing Working for the Knife when it came out, but this was definitely my first time going through the whole album. I recall like a very tepid response to this album, both like on the forums, and I remember I went back and read Stephen Hyden's review of it today, which is quite negative, and that was kind of the sentiment that I remember feeling around it, and like going back to it now, like I think this is a pretty good album. I don't know if it's my favorite Mitski album, but it is. I don't see the like listlessness or like or the sort of like trepidation and sort of boredom that Stephen Hyden sees in it. I think it's an interesting record, and I think explores some kind of fraught emotional places, like very typical of a Mitski album in that way.
Sure.
But
yeah.
Did you hear it right when it came out, I assume?
I believe I pre-ordered this record on Bandcamp. So I was very hyped for this record. I liked Working for the Knife quite a bit. It was clearly very different from anything we'd heard from her before. And really most of this record is exactly that. And it's really interesting to see that because like it's kind of mentioned across the interviews that like obviously as a function of being in lockdown, like she had quite a bit of time to work on this record. But a lot of these songs went through, well, I guess the whole album really went through iterations of being like effectively different genres. It was a guitar record at one point. It was like a
country album.
A country album at one point, yeah. And then ultimately we settle on this like I don't know that I would say that there's necessarily a central sound of this record, but it does lean very synth pop, very disco at times, which is like stuff she's dabbled in before, but leans a lot harder into here.
I mean, I actually think that this album is very focused sonically. Like it feels like an 80s pop worship album to me. And that is sort of what Hayden is getting at in his review, and I understand that as a critique, that this is like a sound that had already been done so many times before by 2022. Like so many artists had done like 80s nostalgia albums. And so I if you're just hearing a lot of that stuff all the time, I can see why it is a little less interesting. But I feel like her take on it is, uniquely Mitski. Just in the way that her voice sounds with these songs, in the instrumentation, the arrangements. There are things on this record that I do not understand musically, and I mean that as like with the highest compliment.
Sure, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I definitely get the sense that this record is figuring out how to make an 80s pop worship record. Now that you like put it that way, like there's a lot of experimentation happening here, and I think that is part of what lends to that unique take on it. Like, she didn't go into this record being like, okay, I've examined all sorts of Madonna records, and I've listened to a lot of Aha, and I know exactly what I'm doing here. It seems like it came from more of a playful angle, I guess is what I would call it. And I honestly really like that about this record. I would say that from, kind of the initial release, I was a little more tepid on it. Like, I liked the songs. I didn't find myself coming back to this a lot, but I do really appreciate it in retrospect, especially given, I didn't know going into it that, like, this record had undergone so many iterations, and this was, like, ultimately where Mitski decided she wanted the album to be. And, like, we hear some of that in the demos that, like, get released as part of the Rough Trade Deluxe Edition. And it's, like, it's insane how these songs sounded in their early iterations, and I really love that.
Yeah, you can hear the different genres that she's playing with in those demos, which we'll get into.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm especially interested in this album, as she calls it in one interview a soundtrack for transformation, and it is both musically and lyrically sort of like exploring a new type of sound, a new. She's talked a lot in the past about like putting on and taking off different personalities. That's been a theme of her music. But this one feels more immersive in a way to me. And it has a lot of lyrics that are like inviting you to come into these places of uncertainty with her. And so it's just this like being on the cusp of a thing is a thing we've talked about in her earlier records. But like trying in this, I think it ties back into the hiatus in really interesting ways, because it's not like the hiatus lasted a long time, but it is. I mean, that is like a major, or at least was a planned like major shift in her life. And it is a sort of like going into uncharted territory for her, which I think is kind of the big idea of this record. Although apparently the album was largely written in 2018, like well before the hiatus was planned, which is kind of funny to think about. It is truly like one of the weirdest hiatuses I have ever read about, in that it basically ended before it began, except maybe it didn't.
Yeah, well, she mentions going into that last show, and like her knowing that it was, going to be the last one, it like kind of gave her this like extra fervor to like make it effectively one of the best performances of her career. And then like she kind of gets off stage and goes, I've made a huge mistake.
Right. But also she had to temper it even before the show, because her fans were freaking out so much.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and then months later she's like, oh, I guess I'm gonna do music again. But also like I owe the label a record that I kind of already have written, because she always seems like she writes one before the next one is even, or before the previous one is even out.
Yeah.
That's always been her way. So, yeah, I mean, all that is to say that, like, that is all kind of leading up to this record that is, like, extraordinarily popular among her fans. I mean, among, like, her big fans, I think, like, it is, or at least in terms of pre-orders, like, it was debuted at number 5 in the Billboard chart. It was, like, a very, was this or was Be the Cowboy the first, like, chart, like, top Billboard charter for Dead Oceans? That must have been Be the Cowboy.
I think it had to have been Be the Cowboy, yeah.
But like this sold well, and its legacy does now feel like kind of an in-betweener, or like maybe a less lauded album.
I mean, I'm sure in a lot of ways, like the sales were partially just like, one, the effect of like everybody loved Be the Cowboy, so obviously they were just going to go ahead and get on whatever was next, a thing we've talked about before. But two, like, again, like, I certainly was shocked when we suddenly had new Mitski. I think the Working for the Knife just kind of came out on its own, and I think about a month later the album was like actually properly announced. Maybe it wasn't quite a month, but it was a little after the single came out.
Yeah.
So like I was shocked just kind of in general to like have more Mitski, because like I, kind of, even with the little I knew back then about like what she was going through in her career and her life, I was like, oh yeah, she's done. Like I totally get it. But like obviously it was much more complicated than that for a number of reasons. But I know she had, like, when she announced it, at least, was like, I fully intended to be done. Like I didn't, like, maybe I would write songs for other people, but like, pull a Nate Roos for a little while, but that was kind of the path she had settled on before the reality of it kind of set in.
Right, and we'll talk in sort of in the B-sides and additional songs section in some of those collaborations that I assume came out of that time. One of which got her an Oscar nomination, which is very cool. But one thing, we should talk about the title of the album that comes from this Appalachian folk term for being trapped in laurel thickets, to the point where like some people literally like die because they're so stuck in them, or at least legend has it. And it being kind of tied to this idea of the life you've chosen for yourself, or especially if you are a public figure or a musician or whatever, as a trap. And at least that's how I read it, because a lot of the songs I think you can read as very much about her relationship to her work and to her career. Yeah,
for sure. And I mean, like, she kind of talks about the nature of the title being like, it was just, the direct quote that I have is, "It was just too perfect. I'm stuck inside this maze. I can't get out, but it's beautiful." And like the maze metaphor comes up later on in the both in Should Have Been Me, and also one of the music videos I think has like a hedge maze in it too. So that imagery is definitely like deeply tied into the record, and thematically, being in a situation that you have sort of put yourself in, and it's awful, but also it's kind of beautiful, is definitely something that runs through the songs here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And should we just get into the songs?
Yeah, let's do it.
So this starts off with Valentine, Texas. Starts very low key and builds into this, I don't even know how to describe the back half of this song. I texted you earlier today, and I will just repeat here. What the fuck time signature is this song in?
Yeah. And it's in 4. Kind of.
It's in 6. Like the demo is. You listen to the demo.
The demo
is
very
very
in
much
6.
In 6. Yeah, but it goes in all these. It's like a broken waltz or something. I don't know what it is, but it is. It's one of those things that's like, I feel like I'm a decent musician, and I still could not just like comprehend that song, and like sometimes that's like a bad thing, but in this case I thought it was fascinating.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things where like it sets an expectation like almost immediately, at least when that shift happens, because like you said, the first like third or so of the song is this really low key, like almost like tempo-less thing. Like it's doing this very like it's very much doing like an ebb and flow tempo wise. Like there's not like a distinct like one that we hit. The one is whenever Mitski sings and a synth note happens. Yeah. But yeah, with the second half, like you get this like this kind of 6/8 feel where like we hit the snare on the fourth beat, but then just like we get those 2 extra notes tacked on at the end, and like it kind of immediately like draws you in further. Like you could just kind of sit back and be like, okay, yeah, this is waltz feel, whatever. But like then suddenly something's off, and like, oh, you've got all my attention now.
Right, and it adds to this idea. I mean, the sort of the ending lyric of the song is this idea about the weight of transformation, I guess. I mean, the two big themes in this album, or at least the ideas that are recurring throughout it, are transformation and invitation, I think. And particularly this idea of inviting someone to go on this transformational journey with you. It is all over this record. And starting from this, let's step carefully into the dark, and then who will I be tonight? Who will I become tonight? But then, like I said, at the end of the song, you get this idea of clouds that look like mountains. Let me watch those mountains from underneath, and maybe they'll finally float off of me. And like this idea that it's both weight and relief that you're longing for.
Right, yeah, and it's this almost indescribable feeling, because we are talking about we're talking about clouds, which are effectively weightless. But you also you want them to float off of you because you're feeling the weight of them, even though it is basically not. Like it's this really ethereal feeling, I guess.
Right, yeah. I mean, and I think a lot of this record kind of like takes place in those ethereal spaces, whether that's like kind of in the mind or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a thing that I see come up over and over again in this record that I think is cool.
Yeah, definitely.
After that is Working for the Knife, which we mentioned was the first single. It's a very kind of spacious, synth-driven song. Like you said, a big change from even the more synthy, dancey songs on Be the Cowboy. Very much a song about living in a capitalistic society and trying to be an artist when the world requires a lot of other stuff of you in order to survive. And whether you get subsumed by that or find a way to resist it, which it seems like is very challenging to do.
Definitely, yeah. I really liked the I guess it was a Pitchfork thing, the song by song, song X song, whatever it was, that got removed from media at one point, because apparently it featured a clip from Birth of a Nation, which is incredibly fucked up. Somebody thankfully re-uploaded it with like a different clip from a different movie, because
okay,
seeing Mitski talk about these songs is cool. But like the conceit at the top of each song is that she gives 3 words or phrases to describe the song. And I missed what the one was for Valentine, Texas, but the one for this was Late Capitalist, Blade Runner, and Resignation.
Okay.
Which is incredibly fitting, which I guess makes sense because she did write the song. I'm fascinated by the drum part on this track in particular, because like, yeah, we get so much of the kind of like, you know, more straightforward 80s synth pop on the rest of the record, Valentine, Texas excluded, because it has its own weird stuff going on. But this one, like, it feels like it's two, like, a bar of drums, another bar of completely different drums that are just tied together by this, like, bass drum line. And, like, it's really hard to grasp because you're just constantly switching between these two disparate beats. And I kind of love that.
Yeah, and I think that, like, as usual with a Mitski record, no matter what is going on musically, even if it is like sort of unnerving or confusing or strange, her voice just pulls you back in or like grounds you.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is, and she talks about a lot. I don't think it was. There's a song later on the record that she talks about like not having an instrument around her when she wrote it, so she just writes the vocal melody, and that really is the focus of all the songs. I mean, it's just good songwriting.
Oh, yeah, it's incredible songwriting. I mean, you start off this song with, like, again, like, I know not all the songs are autobiographical, but, like, I cry at the start of every movie. I guess it's because I wish I was making things too. Like, there's no, I know, again, this was probably written around 28, well, I guess this one might have been more like 2020, based on what I was reading. But, like, this feels very much about the hiatus and, like, just realizing that this is something that Mitski's written about a lot before, is just the joy that making music brings her, and fully quitting that is just maybe not an option at all. But also it ties back to the like kind of long running theme of, you know, like you've already mentioned, the kind of capitalist machine and like all the shit you have to do around, even if you're doing the thing you love, that's not where most of your time is going because you're working for the knife, as it turns out.
Right. And I think like you can read this as just like I guess like a song about late capitalism, about the knife being like the, you know, the corporations or whatever. But I think reading this song is about her career and about her relationship to her art and music and about the hiatus. But then like I feel like that's an even more interesting reading because then the knife is the system that she empowers by being a popular artist. Like, a lot of people make money off of Mitski's music, and by being an artist that does big tours and being an artist that puts out music on a record label and is on Spotify and all that stuff, like, you are inherently empowering this this massive capitalistic machine, and that relationship is going to be a fraught one no matter what.
Right, and all that comes with that is what led her to quit in the first place, because like there was no way to do one without the other at the level that she's at this point in her career.
Right. And I like this as another song about transformation, about this verse that is all about aging. I used to think I'd be done by 20, now at 29, the road ahead appears the same. And then later, like the last line of the song, I start the day lying and end with the truth that I'm dying for the knife. It's contemplating this big transformation while also going through this little one from like optimism to pessimism every single day. I really like that image.
It's really, really great.
Also, the song has an amazing music video.
It is absolutely, I'm going to say this about every music video for this album, nutty, like wild. I love it. This one's maybe the most tame of all of them, though, somehow.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one that's most effective to me, I think, because the other ones get very surreal, and this one, being as grounded as it is and using sound design to do its unnerving stuff instead of like trying to play with crazy imagery, is so effective. And like, she spends most of the video like dancing through this kind of brutalist building and getting to a theater, dancing on stage in an empty theater, and then after the song ends, even though the theater is empty, there's all this applause, and she just keeps dancing and getting more aggressive and pounding on the floor, and the applause turns into like horror movie synths, and the camera starts like swinging all around, and she's like, it like just ends with just her like breathing. It's a really, really disconcerting, cool video. I looked up this director Zia Anger to see if they had directed like a horror movie or anything, but I think they've just mostly done music videos.
Damn. I mean, well, maybe a natural next step for them.
Yeah,
Pull a David Fincher.
Yeah, I found that to be such a cool thing.
It's an incredible visual representation of what's going on in the song, really, and also is like effectively a short film, because there's we've got the bookends of like, we should mention, if you haven't seen this video, the first image you see is Mitski in a cowboy hat. So
right,
like,
which she takes off, like symbolizing the new era. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's a really incredible video. And I had not watched it prior to this last week, so I'm glad I finally did.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Next up is Stay Soft. A very like, groovy, dark dance tune, which she describes as about hurt people finding each other and using sex to make sense of their pain. And also just very much about vulnerability and how that can bite you. I mean, even sort of back to her like happiness fucks you thing from puberty too. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think of this one?
I like this one quite a bit. What I really like is I guess I shouldn't say what I really like, but something that sticks with me is that we in the kind of chorus that we have here, the you stay soft, get beaten, only natural to harden up, you stay soft, get eaten, etc., etc. I like that we get this chorus that has this like kind of it's very understandable that like you keep taking shit and like it has made you a harder person, but like the title of the song is Stay Soft, and it feels declarative. Like this feels like along the lines of like a Stay True or something like that, to like harken back to another song we've talked a lot about. I just like that, like it feels like what the song ultimately is trying to say is like I understand why things get worse when you are this way, but like you should really strive to stay a little soft. And like I that's a thing I'm always drawn to in songwriting. So
yeah, because it is the song is very much about like like you said, the hardening, the negative aspects of that. But yeah, I think I agree with you that the title feels like it is imploring, you as a listener to maybe don't try to not be the way that the people in the song are.
Right. And to the point of it being, about hurt people finding each other and trying to make sense of what that means through each other. Like we get to that second verse, we get the tell me what you want to burn away because I could be your stoker, which this song has a lot of like very specifically sexual lyrics, and like that's definitely like very innuendo laden, but like also just kind of on its surface like this offering of this like very direct help to someone who is going through a similar situation as you. Like that's really beautiful.
Yeah. After that is Everyone. This was the sort of minimal production one I was referring to earlier that was more composed from a vocal melody and with then this like kind of just pulsing 4 on the floor sort bass drum beat and like minimal synthesizer thing added onto it afterwards. Another one that feels to me very much about her career and how the decision to be a musician has basically consumed her entire life and defined her. It does have yet another song with an invitational. I mean, also I did mention it, but the last song did too. But this come in, whatever you are. I left the door open to the dark. It's always the dark with this album.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. It is. It definitely is in many ways. Yeah. I really love how minimal this song is because like obviously it makes you focus on the little changes that do happen because like that like that like big bass synth line that's like most of what's going on aside from like a little bit of a drum machine and Mitski's vocals, it like just hits the same note over and over again for tens of seconds at a time. So like when a chord change happens, it feels big. And like obviously like Mitski is, writing melodies that fit around whatever note is currently like being played such that like it works. It works very, very well. Shocking. She's really good at this. But yeah, she mentions that the kind of production approach on this was inspired by this band Beak, who I know very, very little about. I just know they're an electronic act, like a trio. But I should probably check them out more because I do like this song quite a bit.
Yeah. I don't know if I have a ton more to say about this one, but I like it in this spot on the album as a little bit of a like the album it's been pretty like maybe explosive is the wrong word, but there's a lot of like heights to these songs, and this one is like you said a little more minimal.
Yeah. What one little thing I do like that is a little more not busy, but like a little more obviously like playing with your feelings in terms of like the instrumentation. The very last verse, I didn't know what it would take. Sometimes I think I'm free until I find I'm back in line again. It feels like we have this like kind of descending motif going when she repeats, I didn't know what it would take. And then it feels like we are ascending again on sometimes I think I am free. And then that continues to the end, which feels a little antithetical to the until I'm back in line again. But I kind of like that the like kind of little extra boost that we get at the end to like feel a deeper understanding of the lyrics through the actual instrumental.
For sure. After that is Heat Lightning. This was a single as well. A song that's literally about insomnia and also like the anxiety of giving yourself fully to someone else and not knowing how that will go. I mean, I guess this yet another kind of step into the dark with me idea on this album. It just feels like a running theme. The thing that I just love about this song is that like huge swell after the first chorus into this like jazzy piano break. I don't think I've heard a thing like that she's done before.
Yeah, she mentions that that Patrick came up with this idea that was like kind of Prince inspired, like just having this huge turn occur in the like instrumental part of the song, and like I think that's really, really effective. I also like that we get these like kind of dual vocals on this song, and I guess that's just like Mitski but pitch bent, because it sounds like a much deeper voice. But she's the only credited vocalist on the album, so I gotta assume it's her.
Yeah, you do a lot of cool stuff with a vocoder.
It's true. But yeah, I also really love that turn. Is kind of what I'm getting at there.
Yeah, so I feel like the chorus in particular has this kind of, I don't know if power ballad is the right reference point, but like it feels like something you'd hear in one of those Celine Dion like TV special commercials is
Sure.
like my reference point there. I don't know why that's the thing, like, because I've never heard a Celine Dion album, just like her ABC specials.
But you know exactly what that sounds like.
You know the
so
sound when you hear
it's
it,
fair.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's a big reference point for this course, which is like another 80s, like a big element of 80s music. If you're just like trying to take it all, at least all the pop stuff in, like you can't do it without a little bit of that.
Right, exactly.
Next up is The Only Heartbreaker. This was the second single along with the album announcement. This one was co-written with Dan Wilson from Semisonic, a song that she says went through like 20 iterations and was just about scrapped until she showed it to him and he sort of found a way to get it to the place that it needed to be. This one is just like, even more 80s inspired than really even anything else so far on the album.
Yeah, this one, she refers to this as a Breakfast Club dance sequence track, which
Yeah.
I absolutely love and is very, very apt. But yeah, I actually did not know, because I don't pay nearly enough attention to liner notes, that this had a co-writer on it. Like, clearly Dan did good work on this, but I was kind of shocked to learn that.
Anyone has ever co-written a song on a Mitski record?
Yes, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just her. But yeah, this song is the most 80s track so far in terms of like when you think of what the 80s sound like, it's kind of like this. And this song is an absolute abject jam that is about a real bummer topic, which is being the bad guy in the relationship all the goddamn time because you're the only one trying. And that sucks, man.
Yeah. I mean, and even like getting to this weird feeling of like how even if you're forgiven, you apologize and you're forgiven, that you still feel all this guilt around feeling like you're messing up all the time, even if it is maybe actually not a big deal. I thought that's an interesting idea that it plays with at the end of the song.
Right. Yeah. Well, like, and that's the thing is like in the realization that like you're the bad guy because you're putting in the effort, and like the other person is like maybe not at all and is just trying to be unobjectionable. Like that, the apology, like, or the forgiveness, like almost feels hollow, like, because there wouldn't be a problem without the other party in a lot of cases, and like there's no accountability there as far as I can tell, which like kind of makes the being the only heartbreaker part empowering in a way, which I kind of love.
Yeah, I like that reading of it a lot.
There's also just a big guitar solo on this song, and I do love that. So
Yeah, the way the guitar and synth kind of play together in this, especially near the end, where it's all like this ascending line, is very cool.
yeah,
The music video for this one is kind of crazy.
it is.
This is the most. I mean, like I said, it's the most 80s song. This is the most 80s music video too. Like,
Right.
It's so heavy on the visual effects. She's like in a forest and like touching trees and they're all dying immediately. And then there's like everything catches on fire. And by the end of the thing, she like blows up the entire planet. It's very like cheeky and funny and like the visual effects are like not supposed to be amazing. I do think that maybe this was not the best way to try to sell this album, but I mean, I guess it worked.
Yeah, the video's a little iffy in that regard, but honestly, like I think it feels so tongue in cheek that like it works for me more or less.
I just think that tongue in cheek is not a mode of Mitski that I'm used to.
Fair.
And so it feels jarring to see something that does not seem, like extremely top tier quality. And I like I said, I think it was the intention. I don't think it's like sloppy or like
No.
poorly done. It's just like not the vibe I would have expected from a Mitski music video.
It feels like the impetus for the music video was, wouldn't it be funny if? Which
totally,
is a very rare thing to get here. Although, that said, I would argue that the other two videos also feel a little bit that way, but are like, the surreality of them is kind of what separates them from this video.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and as we get into "Love Me More," the next song, like that's the video that is like deep in the surreal imagery, and I don't really know what to make of a lot of it, but it's very striking.
Puppet Mitski is horrifying. I'm gonna have nightmares about that.
Yeah. But the song "Love Me More" is like another very 80s inspired song. I mean, this is another one that just I can't really read this as about anything else except the decision to go on hiatus and from her career, and feeling like maybe that's the thing that will let me fix what is broken in me, and then realizing that it is definitely not.
Right. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. She specifically like says like it's almost like somebody else loving you is really hard. Or sorry, it's almost like somebody else loving you really hard is really a really convenient distraction from yourself. Yeah. This kind of like not having music to love and be loved by to whatever degree she is loved by it. You're just kind of left with yourself as a person, and like given something as all consuming as music is to Mitski, like that's gotta be really tough.
Yeah, she's like willing herself, like I could be a new girl, I will be a new girl at the beginning of the song, and then like I said, by the end, you know, this later verse, it's like, how do other people live? I wonder how they keep it up when the day is finally done. There's another day to come. Like when you've not, you know, when you're able to have a career that is not like in that grind, or at least in the way that, you know, that it is of like a corporate 9-to-5 job or whatever, and like then you're like in how you once you see like how soul sucking that can be, it's like how do people do it all the time? How do we all do it?
Right. I literally have in my notes, how do other people live? Girl, I wish I knew.
Right. Yeah.
Something that I was very not surprised to learn from the interviews, but was delighted to learn is that this the synth line in this was inspired by Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield, a record I haven't listened to a lot, but he's the guy who did the Exorcist soundtrack. So
yeah.
Like if you have that as a reference point, it makes a lot of sense.
She talks in the interviews about horror movies. I feel like the you know, about wanting to make October like not end
right,
by
yeah.
watching horror movies in November. I feel like the horror movie stuff is very, you know, front and center, but it is all over this record in terms of just like the soundtrack as the horror soundtracks as a sonic reference point. I mentioned the idea of like a creeping darkness that's just all over this album.
Yeah,
that's very much there. She's probably a horror head.
Definitely, yeah. This song, was this one with a demo, or was it the
this is the one where the demo is like the country version of the song.
Yes.
And you I mean, it's got, I don't know if it's a slide guitar, but it's got the like the country harmonies, and you can feel how it could have just, you know, been developed into a pure country song instead of what it became.
Right, yeah. You know, and I think I honestly really, really love that version. That said, the heights that the chorus on this song reaches in its like final form, kind of worth it, honestly.
I think so too. I think it ended up in the right place.
For sure.
Yeah. Next up is "There's Nothing Left for You." This song feels like very much a production showcase because it is such a low key song that then has this moment where it fully, I was about to say ignites, but it is literally a lyric about fire. So
right, yeah.
Maybe that's too on the nose. But where it goes, it swells and gets very spacey and echoey, similar to what what was the song on the Blue Light or whatever it was on Be the Cowboy.
Yeah.
That has that kind of like, it kind of grows and floats off into nothing. This has something similar, and then it like very suddenly comes back down to earth. Just a cool moment on the record.
Yeah, there's we have that huge chorus, and what I wrote down about the second verse, like right after that chorus, is it feels like everything just gets sucked back in. Like you vacuumed out all of the sound except for like a couple of instruments when you hit that, and I think it's really, really neat.
It's diegetic too, because
right.
It is,
and then
this whole song, right? Yeah,
like,
the song is about this feeling of like, a relationship ending and realizing that your partner has moved on already, and trying to come to terms with that, and thinking about the relationship, and then all it's one of those things where it's it hurts and hurts, it hurts, and then boom, all of a sudden you're just kind of over it. And I think that's the feeling that the production conveys there.
Interesting, because from what I understand, this song is actually one of the career songs, because she wrote this right after the last show, and is, according to her, kind of this this narrative of somebody. I'm reading a, I think, direct quote here. A narrative of somebody who had spent most of their life pursuing one singular goal. But it wraps it in this in this romantic feeling, as it often does, because that is one of the things that makes the song relatable to people who aren't playing their last show in New York City in 2019 to a crowd of people who are horrified at the prospect of you leaving their lives.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like I'm so apt to read a lot of these songs as about the relationship with music, whereas this one I was just oh yeah, this is just a romantic relationship. There's nothing else to that. But no, I like that reading of it too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like most of these songs could be read either way, and it's a solid argument in either case.
Yeah, it's kind of the beauty of the album that it is, and why it's so interesting as a comeback record, because it is just reckoning with your career.
Right, yeah, exactly.
After that is Should Have Been Me. Another extraordinarily upbeat and groovy song that is just about emotional isolation. I feel like it does feel like kind of a companion piece to There's Nothing Left Here for You, as it is a bit of a relationship post-mortem, and is about someone who has moved on already, in this case to a girl who looks just like me, which is
right,
a particular kind of hurt.
Yeah, I do like that specific she describes the song as what did she specifically say? I think it's it's about being cheated on but also understanding why. And like you mentioned that the other girl looks exactly like me, she then kind of twists that into and I can see that you're projecting the version of myself that you fell in love with on that person. It should have been me though, because I'm me and people change. It's a really heartbreaking thing to deal with, because at one point this person did love you, or if we want to expand again back to career, this thing did love you, but you changed over time, they changed over time. And what they want is this idealized version of what they had. And it's strange to be able to step back and see that in the moment. And I'm assuming that the song is written from some great distance to have that perspective. But I think it's a really, it's such a rarely explored thing in breakup songs, especially songs about being cheated on.
Yeah. Should this have been a single?
I think it should have been, honestly.
I think so too.
It's so good.
Yeah. This is a top tier song on this album.
Definitely, yeah.
Next up is I Guess, which is sort of an ambient or an ethereal track in the penultimate spot. I think this song is very much about another one that you could very easily read as about a romantic relationship or about a career, but the idea that you grow into yourself in a relationship, and then once that's over, you have to figure out how to exist and who you are outside of that. It's another song about transformation. Literally has a line I'll have to learn to be somebody else, and without you, I don't quite know how to live yet.
That line, the line that stands out to me beyond the ones you just mentioned is it's been you and me since before I was me. Yeah. Very deftly encapsulating this feeling of transformation that has happened over the course of this relationship, whether it be with a person or with an abstract idea. And I definitely it's a short song, so I was kind of reading it both ways at the exact same time.
Right. And you get there's even another level of growth by the end where this is the rare Mitski song that doesn't leave you in the unknown, or in that the tension. It actually gets to a place at the end where it's from here I can say thank you. This moment of appreciation for that growth and for that part of your life, and with a little bit of distance. And I think a lot of her songs don't let you get that distance.
Right. Yeah. It is maybe like we don't get a lot of details, but like, yeah, we have closure here, which is incredibly rare.
Yeah, especially not on the final track of the album.
Right. Yeah.
Although That's Our Lamp has its own kind of sense of closure in it, I think.
Yeah.
A song that is, again, just sort of about the end of a relationship or the end of a career, however you want to read it. And this, sort of the final fight that ends a relationship, and just standing outside of your apartment that you shared with a person and looking up at it and saying, like, that's, this is repeated, that's where you loved me. This, like, association of a person with a place. And it's, I don't know, it's, there's a lot of stuff going on that I really love in this song.
Yeah. Like, this is, I mean, this is a incredibly, like, downer song that, like, she specifically says that, like, she and Patrick were like, given everything that's going on, given the rest of the album, we've really got to make this song a party. And frankly, they did a great job of that, despite the fact that, like, we are describing the situation where you are in the immediate aftermath of a relationship effectively ending, and that is a tough position to be in. Especially when you've got 80s synth action happening around you.
Yeah, there's no distance in this one, and it's right in the moment. I like that this album both begins and ends in the dark. Literally like a standing in the dark. Or come into the dark, and then it ends with standing in the dark. And it's also, man, that horn part. It's just, I don't know. I like that it is a very different kind of closer than she typically does.
Yeah.
It's not as good as Two Slow Dancers, but, like, nothing is.
No, that's a hard one to top. And by that I mean I don't think most people could top that.
Right.
I honestly, like, in a normal situation, I think, not a normal situation, but, like, I think there's a universe in which I guess and That's Our Lamp are flip flopped. Because, like, I feel like I guess could close the album. But I feel like, yeah, this is. It ends the album on a high note, like, sonically at very least, pretty low note emotionally, but yeah, I do, kind of to the point of the darkness. I love that we have this contrasting image of the titular lamp. It shines like a big moon. Like, that's, again, like, we don't have distance at this point. Like, that is, like, you can see what was holding you together this whole time, what however frail it may have been. You don't have the, like, the gift of time to show you, like, everything that was, like, leading up to this moment. You just have, fuck, I already missed this, and you're just kind of sitting in that.
Right, and maybe that means you've been missing it for a long time if you're able to have that right away. Right. Which is another kind of way to read the song as it fades out to end the album.
Yeah, like you said, I love the arrangement on this song. Those big drums, and I think they're synth horns. That or they're just heavily affected regular horns.
Whatever it is, it sounds cool.
It sounds very cool. I do like it quite a bit. They've also got the kind of, like, crowd noise and like fake chorus going on that is just Mitski and Patrick, like, layering their voices on top of each other, which I think is really cool because, like, yeah, they recorded this in COVID. They weren't going to bring a bunch of people into the studio. They might as well just go ahead and do it themselves.
Right, yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's the album. Where are you feeling like this stacks up to the other records right now? We don't have to do the whole discography ranking yet, obviously, but
no, we've got several more albums to do before that. Yeah. I don't think I like this as much as, especially not, like, Puberty 2 and Be the Cowboy. I think those two albums are 10s, but I still, like, I think this, like, the songwriting is still immaculate on this album. I think any other form that this album, like, could have taken on its kind of journey to ending up where it does would have been probably more immediately, like, loved by fans and, like, newer fans alike. But I like that it takes these big risks, and by these big risks, I mean the big risk of being an 80s worship record at a time, like you mentioned, where that's been done a bunch by other people. But like, again, it's Mitski, so like she and Patrick are gonna find a way to make it unique and cool. And I think ultimately it is really unique and cool. It's still probably not one I'm gonna return to as much as other albums in the discography, but like I definitely think it's pretty damn good.
I like the idea of thinking of this as like a risky album because it's doing something that so many artists had done up to that point, as opposed to, like I said, the Stephen Hyden take, which is just, this is a retread of everything that's popular.
Yeah, and like, again, I shouldn't say again. I don't think I said this before. I see where that take comes from on like a very surface level, but like it feels like that was a like, I listened to this casually and I decided that since it sounds like it's from the 80s, it's like every other thing that sounds like it's from the 80s that's come out in the last 5-10 years.
Yeah.
Like it's very odd to like not go any deeper than that.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe, who knows? But there's also, it's possible, like, reacting to that this album is so much about the career and the hiatus itself that it feels like I can see how an album that is so internal facing and like self-examining might seem less interesting than something that's exploring bigger themes or something like that. But like it feels big to me in that it is like about the thing that consumes your entire life if you're a musician. And I like,
Right.
That's what I like about this record.
Your own Laurel Hell, if you will.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a few, not exactly B-sides, but there's a couple other related projects to this, or at least from the same era. So before Laurel Hell comes out, Mitski records the soundtrack to a graphic novel called This Is Where We Fall. Just a 3-song thing that is just up on Bandcamp. One of which is the song "The Baddie Man" that's very much like a country tune,
Straight up,
a really big hook, and then 2 other songs that are more instrumental, kind of ominous Western guitar, Western movie guitar score, Ennio Morricone type stuff, and also like some heavier post rock stuff that just has like dialogue from, I assume, from whatever the graphic novel is. It's not something that I've read. Have you read this book?
I have not. I had like, I thought that I was going to take the time to read it before we got here, and then I just did not do that. But I'm interested to, given, one, the subject of the baddie man. I love the idea of a person who's creeping through the alleys of your mind.
Yeah.
But the like kind of spoken word parts that happen in the 2 like more effectively instrumental tracks is like, all right, I'm interested, and like it's a project that Mitski wanted to be involved in, so like sure, it's probably pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, these tracks are neat. They feel like kind of a novelty in a way, though.
Yeah, it's a cool little thing. The dialogue on the beginning and the end, the guy who is reading that, I assume is the author of the book, maybe, I don't know.
I assumed so, yeah.
But sounds just like the doctor on Boys Night Out's Trainwreck.
Oh, interesting.
And every time I'm like waiting for him to start talking about, like a guy cutting his hands off or whatever happens on that record.
Wild.
And then there's a couple other songs. There's Glide, which is a cover of a fictional band from the movie All About Lily Chow Chow, a movie I have not seen. Cool weird guitar solo in that one, or weird guitar sound.
Yeah, you could have fooled me into thinking this was just a Mitski song, given the way the lyrics are. That song, like the arrangement and like that's probably just like because of a function of what it is. That song feels much more like of the Puberty 2 era in terms of like arrangement and whatnot, than anything closer to Laurel Hell. But as a result, I like it.
Yeah, well, and I mean the way that she seems like she's mining her past eras for new music all the time, like it could be, who knows.
Right, yeah.
And then the last thing on here is probably the most significant of these B-sides or additional songs is This Is a Life from the Everything Ever All at Once soundtrack that she does with Son Lux and David Byrne, a song that gets her an Oscar nomination, which is so cool.
Yeah, that's really rad. I embarrassingly still haven't seen Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I really need to get on that. I'm aware.
It's
But
so
yeah,
good.
I know it is. But yeah, I didn't actually know that this. I knew that Mitski was involved in a song, but I didn't know that like David Byrne was also on the song, and that it's sick as hell. It's a really good track.
Yeah, it's excellent. It's very cool to hear them duetting.
Yeah, their voices mesh so well. It's really really cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of the whole Laurel Hell era. Liked this album just way more than I expected to, based on, like I said, my memory of the initial reaction to it, and I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I mean it's I feel like it wasn't I mean you get a musician effectively like saying they're retiring ish, uh followed by, a few years later, sooner than you would imagine, they announced they're coming back. And like I don't know like what kind of expectations people had coming into this, and I'm sure a lot of people were like, yeah, I want Be the Cowboy too, or I want some mythic thing I've never like thought that I could possibly hear from Mitski that I can't even imagine myself. Like I don't know, man. But I really like whatever expectations people had set for themselves. I think was maybe part of what made the response to this album initially not so great, and that really I don't love that was the thing. I'll just
Right?
put it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. All right. You got a random recommendation for this week?
I do. I want to recommend the film and the soundtrack to the film, Ryuichi Sakamoto Opus, which is for those who don't know, Ryuichi Sakamoto, a musician who soundtracked a lot of incredible movies. Also, just a like great composer outside of his movie work. Very well known for his piano reductions of his own work, but also like did a lot of cool experimental stuff later in his career. Had like a phase of just like being a straight up pop artist. Like earlier on in his career, was a member of Yellow Magic Orchestra, another legendary band in their own right. But he was diagnosed with cancer a number of years ago. There is a film about him being in remission called Coda, that I made Troy and many of our friends watch for our movie club once. But this film Opus documents his final performance. It is just him and a piano, which is at one point prepared, which I think is really really cool. I got to see this in the theater with a friend of the pod, Blake Carell, and we were both just taken aback by it. It is a really stunning recording. The film work itself is just really, really great. He plays a career-spanning solo piano set, and it is just absolutely stunning. And I have such a hard time like talking about his music because he has since passed. He is a very important figure for me. And I, on a semi-related note, I went to see Kelly Moran a couple of weeks ago with Blake and our friend Jack at Constellation, and she mentioned that she was gonna do kind of like back third of her set that was like composers that she that are more contemporary to her that she really loves, and she played a Nico Muhly piece, a Philip Glass piece. And then after she played the Philip Glass piece, she just turned around and said, "These last three pieces are by Sakamoto," and then like turned around and like gave one of the most like jaw-dropping performances I've ever seen outside of this film.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was incredible. But so Sakamoto's been on my mind lately as a result of that. And even if you're unfamiliar with his music, I highly recommend just like seeking out these songs because he was truly a master of his craft.
Yeah, I can confirm Coda is so good. And I need to watch this one.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. I would make sure that you have a good sound system situation happening when you do.
Yeah.
But what you got?
I'm going to recommend the new album, Something Worth Waiting For by Freako. They're a Chicago band, really, really great sort of indie rock band. This new record was produced by John Congleton. Sounds amazing. It's the best I can describe it is like, what if Bright Eyes made an Arcade Fire record and it was fucking awesome?
Yes, fair.
And yeah, my experiences with everyone in this band that I've met have been very positive. They seem like wonderful people, and I'm so happy that they're like seem to be on the path to being a huge success. They already kind of were with their previous record, Where We've Been, Where We Go From Here. But this one just feels like a huge step up in every way, and think it is phenomenal. Very exciting time for this band.
Yeah, this record's so good. There was so much as we're recording this, so much released last Friday that I'm still not through most of it, but that was one that I did get to, and it's really something special. I'm very excited to see what happens next for them.
Yeah, same. All right. We will be back next week talking about The Land is Inhospitable, and So Are We. That's the title, right?
Yeah.
Did I get it right? Okay, good.
You did get it right.
Cool. And I will definitely get it right next week.
Yeah.
In the meantime, you can find us on the internet at noisefloorpodcast.com. Follow us on Instagram at noisefloorpod, and send us email at noisefloorpodcast@gmail.com. And we will see you next week.
See you next week.